Welcome to IT Secure webinar about system monitoring. It's presented by IT Secure. We specialize in Linux server management. We're managing hundreds of servers, and we need to be sure that servers are operational at any time. And if there is any issues with the servers, we need to know before any customers would know and respond proactively in 24/7 matter. And we have a distributed team of people who respond to alerts in different time zones. So, and I'll pass it on to Sanal, who is Sanal Chavda, who has been working with us for many years and has been focusing on system monitoring. Please, Sanal, share your expertise with attendees.
Thank you, Dima. Thank you for the introduction. Greetings to everyone. We welcome you all to this informative webinar on system monitoring. Whether you are using a personal computer or laptop or servers or many production servers in your company. And no matter how high-end your PC is or your whole infrastructure is, as mentioned, monitoring is as important as to have the system, as important as to have the infrastructure. So in today's webinar, we are going to talk about why do you need system monitoring, what to monitor, how to monitor, and which monitoring tools to use. The webinar will be for around 30 minutes. And if you have any questions, you can put it on chat. We will try to address at the end if time permits, or we will reach out to each of you personally via email. So let's begin with why do you need system monitoring? Obviously, when you have your infrastructure, when you have your system in place, you want to keep it running smoothly without any interference, without any interruptions. And for that, you need to have complete visibility of your infrastructure, right from the overview till the smallest component of your infrastructure. And that is also not just in real time, but you as well want to have historic monitoring data, because from history of the data, one is able to take the decision about improving or balancing the infrastructure. And the main reason why we want to monitor is before your customers comes across or faces any issues in your services, your monitoring system well in advance predicts the major issues coming forward. And by those, and with those issues and alerts by your monitoring systems, one can proactively respond to these kind of issues in advance before the customers face it. And with all these things configured in place, your team members are at ease because they don't need to worry about constantly keeping eye on the infrastructure or the issues appearing by themselves, but your monitoring system will do it, and the team can spend more time in improvement and advancement of already existing system rather than just maintaining it. Even though all these things are in place, we do a lot of monitoring, but still practically problems are going to occur. So whenever a problem occurs for the first time, your monitoring system will collect the data and it will help to improve the things and avoid future problems. In this, we are talking about monitoring of the infrastructure, but in today's time, when in cyber world, security is also one of the big area which we may not talk in this webinar, but monitoring system security is as important as monitoring the infrastructure of the system. So with monitoring, it will enhance your system security as well as the performance of your services. So say this, monitoring a computer system is just as important as the system itself. While monitoring does not fix problems, it surely leads to a more stable and reliable computer systems, and which leads you to successful, hassle-free business and happy customers. Before going further, if we talk about current situation, rather than current situation, let's say a few years ago, because monitoring is introduced in IT realm since years, but in past it was like pieces of infrastructures were monitored separately. And if we see current scenario with advancement in various microservices, serverless architecture, and cloud computing, the infrastructure is so complex that the services and efficiency is improved, but at the same time, it brings many new monitoring challenges. And these challenges can only be overcome if you have a holistic view of your infrastructure, and it can be scaled with your business. Because with new services frequently coming in the market, you need to keep improving the monitoring of the systems as well. So one needs something that can help all IT operational teams to see the big picture and at the same time to go to details whenever it's required, whenever there is any issue arising in the system. So if we just try to understand current complex IT infrastructure, it could be something like this. You have a lot of servers, maybe on premises or in some data centers or in cloud, and all of them are connected via network. You have your storage somewhere in some place. And to make all these secure, you have your security tools, local host security, network security, and even having all these, you need to have backup and disaster recovery measures for incidents. So looking at this kind of complex infrastructure, the more complex it is, the more room for failure. And that can be seen from some surveys. So if you look at this graph, year by year, like in these 3 years, the percentage of outages keeps increasing. And according to one survey, only about half of the organizations actually calculate the cost of downtime incident. If it would have been handled properly, if it would have been managed or processed properly, then 60% of the data centers outages could have been prevented. We also have some figures. If we look at some facts, like about 20% of organizations had serious outage in past 3 years. Nearly 1/3 of all outages cause financial or reputational damage. Outages increases, and in 2020, the cost of outages was more than $1 million. And if you think it affects only bigger companies, it is not so. Companies of all sizes can be affected by these outages. And nowadays, even one company relies on other companies for some microservices. We see cascading effects. In case one company suffers some outage, it affects other companies as well. So there are some real cases happened in past years. If we take famous companies' outages happening in year 2020. So like US mobile operator, T-Mobile, it had suffered major outage. And with that, their customers could not use mobile phone service, internet connection, text facility for a few hours. In the same year, Slack, messaging system for business, popularly used. It suffered a service outage. And Slack users, they face troubles with files, messages, and connecting to Slack. And the same year, even Tesla, an American multinational automotive company, it suffered from network outage, global network outage. And it left the owners unable to connect to their cars through mobile app or through the website. So anytime issue occurs, whenever there is infrastructure, no matter how high-end it is, the best way to ensure that the issues are resolved quickly, or better if we could prevent it, is to monitor and troubleshoot the underlying infrastructure. And at the same time, the mission critical apps and services that runs on this infrastructure. So we can say monitoring directly may not improve the business, but directly or indirectly, it does. So if we understand necessity of monitoring, the next question arises, what should one monitor in one's company, in one's business? So in this webinar, our focus will be mainly on resources and infrastructure monitoring. These are some primitive monitoring which any infrastructure would need. So this is the bigger overview, your physical and virtual servers, containers, routers, switches. And going to smaller components, you would want to monitor various resources and infrastructure like CPU, RAM, storage, disk I/O, network, inventory, processes, HTTP monitoring, that is URL monitoring for your website or web application, automatic SSL certification, expiration checking, uptime for your systems, logs monitoring, cron jobs, ping, web application performance. So this is the main part of our webinar, and we will have a little detailed look at various things which we can monitor. So after to choose a monitoring tool itself is a matter of study and experiment and trials. But here I have some tools to show you. So this is one of the tool called Check-in-K, which when we start monitoring our hosts, it offers some basic service monitoring, which includes, as we talked about, CPU monitoring, then the file system, the various partitions on the file system, disk I/O summary, inventory, memory of your host, ping, whether the machine is accessible in the moment, various processes running on the system, and uptime, since how long the system is running, the virtual host is running. So this is for virtual host. It can be configured to monitor other devices like your physical servers, switches, routers. If we look at the graph closely for the services, for each services monitored, for many services, the monitoring tool also offers graphs, because visibility is one of the important part of monitoring tool. So with this, how monitoring helps is if we are monitoring CPU utilization of the system. So here, just to observe few details, we can decide thresholds for the monitoring. So in this case, for CPU utilization, two thresholds are there. At 50% usage, it's warning, and at 100%, it shows critical. So one system admin can monitor, can see high usage over a period of time, can decide to add the resources, and the performance of the machine can be improved. Similarly, this is for RAM. for memory monitoring, RAM and swap usage. If admin can see that for over a period of time, there's more swap usage on the system, then the decision can be taken to improve the infrastructure, to improve the resources on the machine. And that way, before any issue starts arising, before the application starts suffering, the issue can be solved. This is another resource monitoring is about storage on your physical servers. As we can check it on virtual, as we can monitor it on virtual servers, no matter where your data centers are, can monitor all the physical storage available. As mentioned before, one can decide the thresholds, like at what percentage it is used and you want to have warning or critical. At present, we are just talking about monitoring. Another important point to consider is receiving alerts and notifications, which we will talk soon. So this is HTTP monitoring. It is for your website or your web application. You want to check availability of your site. Monitoring a home page or login page is the most common and primitive things, but even one would want to monitor further other pages of the application as well, because you want to make sure that whole service is available in time. As it was listed, the SSL certification monitoring. Again, threshold can be decided for how many days in advance it should warn, for how many days in advance the service status will become critical if it is going to expire and it's not renewed yet. Uptime monitoring. In many companies, automatically rebooting, updating and rebooting of the system is scheduled via cron jobs. So this, with this monitoring, it can be assured that whatever scheduling is done accordingly, the machine is getting rebooted. For system admins, configuring cron jobs is one of the important tasks, because one needs to run scripts periodically or regularly for any specific reasons. So once a system admin configures a cron job, is relaxed that the job is happening in the background, but for some reasons, if job stops working, monitoring comes in help, informing the admin about disturbance in the job. So again, here also the threshold can be configured if it is daily, like 24 hours job or weekly job or monthly job. And accordingly, the notifications will be sent. These were all matrix kind of monitoring. But whenever any issue arises, one of the source to look at is system logs. So there are some monitoring tools which collects the logs together, and it can be viewed in one place. All the errors from the logs or warnings from the logs, or even just information level logs can be observed. Some software, some tools also offer collecting logs from various applications and having them in one place to view and analyze. So all these we saw was a basic and primitive monitoring, which in any infrastructure one would like to set up or configure. This is beyond the scope of this webinar, but there are some advanced monitoring concepts as well, if monitoring is to be done completely and fully. So they are synthetic monitoring, real user monitoring, business process monitoring, database monitoring. After understanding what all components to be monitored, the next question comes is how to implement monitoring. Now, you want to monitor these different areas of your infrastructure, of your computer systems. The next question is how to implement it. So as a strategy, start with determining your goals. What area of your infrastructure you want to monitor, because you know your business well, where the issues are arising, what type of infrastructure you have. So to begin with, what do you want to monitor? And you will keep in mind that at two different scales, you want to monitor whole infrastructure as well as the small components of it. And for setting up this monitoring, which are the data sources which will be used, like logs, metrics, or what? Then we will, at later point, we'll come to this point again, which is one of the important points in monitoring, is about alerts and notifications. So after deciding thresholds for various services, the alerts will be sent to whom and who is going to respond it, because monitoring is useful only when the alerts are responded in time. Apart from it, yes, there are so many monitoring tools available in the market. So evaluating the tools itself is a big task. So there are many tools available with free trials, or some tools available free. Some tools can monitor up to certain quantity of infrastructure. So this is matter of study and experiment to evaluate the tools. And once they are evaluated and selected, even periodically or on regular basis, one needs to reevaluate the strategy and tools and the monitoring what is configured. So to sum it up, creating a monitoring strategy is not easy, but definitely the time invested in this will be worthwhile in long run, because it's rather than having the issues and spend time in troubleshooting, it is always better if it can be prevented. So whatever monitoring tools we choose, the most common features we expect the monitoring tool to have is it should do real-time analysis. It means we need to have continuous monitoring of our resources, of our infrastructure. We should have visual data and graphics display, because sometimes some of the monitoring tools, they offer a lot of things, but to have it in, excuse me. To have it in proper graphical format, then only it will be useful. Moreover, your tool should be customizable, because monitoring it differs a lot from business to business. So it has to be customizable, scalable. Today you have your business with a certain number of hosts in your infrastructure, but the same tool should be usable when you have your business expanded as well. System alerts. Again, the most important aspect of monitoring tool, notifications, reporting, because it's not just collecting the data, but from all this historical data available in monitoring tool, one should be able to create nice reports for the management. Then extendable via plugins. So it's not just the monitoring tool itself offering the services, but there are many plugins available in the market which can offer advanced and more facilities in the monitoring. So the tool should be flexible enough. It should be able to extend via plugins. Again, another important aspect is role-based profiles. Monitoring tools are not just for system administrators, but it is applicable to many people in the company, developers, reliability engineers, and even for management. And all the information is not necessary for everyone. So your tool should be able to offer role-based profiles. Who is able to see what kind of visibility. And of course, it needs to have flexibility and adaptability. Because your infrastructure can vary, you can have many systems with different operating systems with different structure. So it should offer great flexibility and adaptability. So thus, looking at it, we can see monitoring is a tremendously broad and complex activity. So it's not a closed concept, but depends upon the needs of each company. These are some of the important things to work on when setting up monitoring for you. So the most important, be savvy with alerts and consider level of alerts. Because as mentioned before, any monitoring system will do good only if its alerts are attended, if they are addressed, if they are responded in time. So the system will keep monitoring for you 24/7. But whenever alert arises, it has to reach to right person. And on reaching right person, that person has to address it. Then the whole monitoring makes sense. And consider the medium of alerts. So this is again, if we as humans keep receiving alerts, the tendency is easily we can ignore it. So understanding the sensitivity of the alerts, the medium should be considered. Some of the critical alerts which can be sent as text, some of the alerts can be sent as emails, so that when the admin comes on desk, can address those alerts. So depending upon its intensity, it can be configured. Refine your dashboards, because monitoring systems the admins will use most, or whoever is using needs to have a better understanding, and it is possible only with refining your dashboards. So the tool can offer many things, but it is really up to the person to how nicely or how in a best way the tool can be used. Remember that redundancy is good. It can be, like say for example, URL monitoring. It can be monitored from various places. So redundancy is always good. It makes sure if your service, not the way just you see, but the way your customers from different places of the world, they experience it. So redundancy is good. And watch for outliners. Anything out of pattern, anything out of graph. So when monitoring notifies about anything going out of line, one needs to watch for it. It may bring to any unusual or unexpected incident. The last part of our webinar is which monitoring tools to use. This is really since beginning, as mentioned, there are many tools available in the market, and either you need to experiment with so many tools, or just take help of expertise who can configure the appropriate select appropriate monitoring tools and configure it as per your business. So there are three categories mainly: observation tools, which we talked mainly during the session, that is availability monitoring. So these kind of tools observes hardware, software, and services. Then another category is analysis tools. So those tools not just does observations, but it analyzes and does forecasting, does trending, and more than that, engagement tools, which can also take some actions, like from alert generations. It can create services, it can create service tickets. So just to name few popular monitoring tools, there are SolarWinds, Zabbix, Manage Engine, Nagios, CheckMK, Splunk, Elk, PRTG, Datadog, Icinga, Grafana, Prometheus, Log Analyzer. Some tools are free in the market. Some tools can be used on for trial basis, and some are enterprise editions. So with this, now you know we talked about why do you need monitoring, what to monitor, how to monitor, and what type of tools to use. Still, practically, when you want to implement, you need to think few questions and ask yourself how to implement it. So how do you choose the efficiently the monitoring components in your infrastructure? How do you choose the best monitoring tool or set of tools for your business? And the most important, as emphasized again and again, how and who will respond to the alerts generated by my monitoring system? Because that is the whole aim of monitoring, to offer seamless service to your customers and keep your systems running smoothly. So thank you all for attending this webinar. Feel free to visit us. We have many blogs. We didn't talk about security monitoring in this webinar, but we have many blogs about cybersecurity, many good articles on this blog. Feel free to visit us. We'll be happy to have you on our website.
Thank you, Sanal. It has been very informative, and thank you for sharing your expertise coming from years of experience. So I'm sure for people who are just getting started with monitoring, it would be very useful to learn a few things about monitoring. If there are any questions from people, feel free to reach out to us. We are open there and to help anybody who can help. So thank you again for attending.
Thank you.
And I wish everybody a good day. Bye.